In mid to late March of 2024, we had two back-to-back sequels with Empire in the title. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and now Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire.
Your new empire?
Will there be any other 2024 sequels with Empire in the title? We'll see. Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner, and welcome to my review of Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire is the sequel to 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong, as well as the fifth film in this MonsterVerse. Adam Wingard, who directed Godzilla vs. Kong, is back behind the camera for The New Empire. And this film stars Rebecca Hall, Brian Tyree Henry, Dan Stevens, and a bunch of CGI monsters. Set after the events of Godzilla vs. Kong, Kong is encountering more of his species in Hollow Earth. But when there is a new deadly threat on the rise, it's up to Kong to unite with Godzilla to stop these threats from destroying the world. Now, before we get into The New Empire, I would like to give you my thoughts on the MonsterVerse movies. Let's start with the 2014 version of Godzilla. Now, this is a divisive Godzilla movie. You either love this movie, like it, but don't think it's great, think it's okay, or just found this movie to be really disappointing. What I have to say about it, the first half of this movie, absolutely amazing. 10 out of 10. I was on board. I was loving it. This is the Godzilla movie I was hoping for. Then right at the beginning of the second act, when, spoiler alert, Bryan Cranston's character dies, that's where I kind of lost interest in the movie. And the second act of this movie kind of drags. But the third act of this movie is awesome. And that Halo jump sequence, amazing. And that atomic breath scene, pretty awesome. And definitely want to give it credit where credit's due. It is a very well-directed movie. Definitely show Gareth Edwards is a great director when he handles big blockbuster films and massive spectacle. He proved it with this movie, and he later proved it with Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, and last year with The Creator, which I found to be a solid sci-fi film. The visual effects are incredible, the action scenes are amazing when it's there, and Bryan Cranston was easily the best acted performance in the whole film. Shame he really didn't have that much screen time. But my problems with that movie, the characters in that movie just felt kind of bland and uninteresting. Aaron Taylor Johnson was fine in that movie, but just not really on the same level of emotional attachment or really of an interesting character as Bryan Cranston. And how they constantly just cut the action scene abruptly, I did not like that. Just set up an amazing monster fight, it's gonna be awesome, an amazing action scene, and then you just cut it to someone watching it on the news or the aftermath, and I was like, oh my god, look at this monster fight. We could just show it, but here you go, you see it on the news. And to the aftermath, that just kind of got on my nerves a bit. I was just like, come on, just show us a bit of it. And I felt this way when the movie came out, and I still feel that same way now. Bryan Cranston, he should have been the main character of this movie. He was the best acted performance in the film. He was the most interesting character. He had the most potential for an emotional core of the film, and they just cut that emotional core after the first act, which was really disappointing. While there are things I absolutely love about that Godzilla movie, there are some things that hold it back from me absolutely loving it, so I give it 3.5 stars out of 5, a B. And then in 2017, we got Kong Skull Island. While not great, and there are some bland human characters in this film, I think this is an entertaining and underrated film in the MonsterVerse, in my opinion. I love the time period of this post-Vietnam War King Kong movie. It sort of felt like King Kong in Apocalypse Now. It's got great visuals and action, and the two actors that just stole the show in this movie were definitely Samuel L. Jackson and John C. Reilly. It also does have its pacing issues, but I had a lot of fun with this movie, so I would give it the same grade, but I enjoyed this more than the 2014 film, so it's 3.5 stars out of 5, a B. And then in 2019, we got a sequel to the 2014 Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and that movie was so disappointing and forgettable. While 2014 was solid, this was a step down. And the human characters were even more bland and uninteresting, minus Millie Bobby Brown. And the monsters in this movie just felt like secondary characters. And that, sadly, was one of my most disappointing movies of 2019, up there with The Rise of Skywalker, so I would give it 2.5 stars out of 5, a C+. And in 2021, we got Godzilla vs. Kong. And I would say, I think it's the most enjoyable film in the MonsterVerse. That does give you what you expect to see, giant monsters fighting between Godzilla and Kong, and surprisingly, the human characters in this film, I didn't mind them. And it actually does have a good emotional core between the little girl and Kong. It does have its entertaining moments, the visuals are fantastic, and another film I gave 3.5 stars out of 5, a B, and I still stand by that grade. After having an adequate track record with the MonsterVerse movies, I went into Godzilla X Kong The New Empire with so-so expectations. When the trailer was out, I thought this could be either a fun time or a mediocre, mindless monster movie. And in that part of the trailer where Kong and Godzilla were running next to each other, I knew people were gonna make memes of that part in the trailer, and I was right. And after seeing Godzilla Minus One in January, and I'll say more of my thoughts on that film in the end of my review, and absolutely loving that film and being blown away by it, there were two parts of me with this new film. One part of me was like, more Godzilla action, hell yeah! But then there's another part of me that was like, this movie's not gonna come anywhere near the greatness of Godzilla Minus One, isn't it? So I saw Godzilla X Kong The New Empire opening weekend with an open mind, and what are my thoughts on it? To sum up, it is basically what you expected from this movie. A big, loud, dumb monster action movie mess. But did I find this movie entertaining? At times I did. It is a flawed, but I'd say it was a decently entertaining and serviceable addition to the MonsterVerse. Let's start with the pros. First, on a visual effects standpoint, it's all fantastic. All admirable effects work from the massive scale, creature designs, attention to detail on both Godzilla and Kong, as well as the look of Hollow Earth is all immersive and very interesting to see. I can tell Adam Wingard is starting to feel more confident handling these type of blockbusters, knowing how to hand big scale action and making it entertaining and visually amazing, and making them well filmed and using some interesting camera placements. And he does give you that ridiculous monster mayhem action you expect to see here. Just from the opening scene, I was like, okay, I know what this movie is trying to be. I'm gonna try to have fun with this. And the opening scene in this film features a scene where Kong takes a creature, rips it in half, pours its insides all over himself, and then the very next scene, he sits in a waterfall and he's taking a shower. It's like it's the goofy fun I'm expecting to have here. And followed by another scene where Godzilla is in Rome, and after an atomic breath scene that was pretty dope, and Godzilla just takes a nap inside a Colosseum in Rome, and I'm like, I don't know why I found that so funny, but it is to me. And also another scene in the middle of this movie where Godzilla is in Hollow Earth and he just takes a mini Kong and just swings him around and fights these other creatures with him. I was just like, this movie is kind of turning me into a little kid and just giving me ridiculous moments I can't help but enjoy. And the climax with the big monster fights between Godzilla, Kong, and this new empire, it's all a blast to see. It does give you the monster sandbox playing action you expect to see, and it is worth the price of admission. Like with Godzilla vs. Kong, I still like Kong is the main focus of this movie, and he still feels like the main character here. I do like seeing him discover more of his species down in Hollow Earth. I even really like the body forms with this mini Kong there, and all that stuff there does give him a great character arc. The two human characters I enjoyed the most here, one, Brian Tyree Henry, who returns as the podcaster from the first movie. He is still very entertaining here and provides a lot of great comic relief here. And I think he's a good actor. I always like seeing Brian Tyree Henry in more movies. And the second one, quite honestly my favorite character in this movie, Dan Stevens. He is just so funny and full of charisma in this movie. He made this movie way more entertaining. Just from the first scene with him, I was like, yep, I like this character already. And sadly, that's where my positives end. And now, let's get into the cons. First, an ongoing issue with the MonsterVerse films, the human characters. They're there, but they're not very interesting. They either just feel underdeveloped, some you don't really get emotionally attached to, or just feel disposable, or just there to die, or just sidelined. They're not really given a lot of depth, just there to move the story along. It's just a shame after seeing Godzilla Minus One, and that was the perfect balance of heart-pounding action, but also human characters to care about. And I just wish the MonsterVerse movies would have the right balance of that. I do want to enjoy some monster action here, but I also want human characters to care about at the same time. And about Godzilla 2014, if you were disappointed about Godzilla's minimal screen time in that film, I don't know how you're gonna feel about his screen time in the new Empire because he's barely in this movie. He has less screen time in the new Empire than he did in 2014 Godzilla. For a majority of the movie, he's just charging and they don't utilize Godzilla that much. And even in the middle of this movie, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot Godzilla was in this movie. And it just feels weird that it's called Godzilla and Kong, where Godzilla has much less screen time and Kong feels like the main character here. It should be just called Kong and the New Empire. Oh yeah, and Godzilla's there too. I know it's a mouthful, but at least it's a little accurate. And a disappointing flaw for me, I didn't really feel the emotional connection between Jai and Kong here. Where I found the bond between those characters pretty interesting in the first film, here it doesn't really focus on a lot. It just feels kind of rushed and not really having the impact it should have. And lastly, the pacing does feel inconsistent, whereas the first half, it's really fun and has energy, it gets going, but once they get to Hollow Earth and discover more things there, that's where the pacing gets a little repetitive. Here's what Kong is doing, here's what the other characters are doing. It just feels a bit repetitive until the New Empire story gets going. To sum up, is Godzilla x Kong the New Empire big, loud, dumb, and ridiculous? Yeah. But is it an entertaining time? At times it is. Even with the uninteresting human characters and ridiculous as hell moments, it does contain entertaining enough monster sequences, and the visuals are once again fantastic to make it a decently entertaining time at the movies. I would definitely recommend this movie to you if you liked every single film in the MonsterVerse. You're likely going to enjoy this one. Or if you're looking for a movie to have a fun, goofy time with, you'll likely enjoy this one. However, if you're either looking for a monster movie with more depth, with characters to care about and emotional core, I don't know if this movie is really going to give it to you. I'd say more Godzilla Minus One. Or if you haven't been too impressed with the MonsterVerse films, I don't know if this movie is going to win you over. After a very impressive opening weekend with $80 million, second highest opening weekend of the year so far behind Dune Part 2, so Warner Brothers has definitely dominated the box office in March 2024. So with the box office success, I definitely think Warner Brothers is going to proceed with more MonsterVerse films. And again, it does have an adequate track record, but for their next film, whatever that may be, will I check it out? Sure, I'll check it out, just hoping it's a fun time. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, 3 stars out of 5, a B-. I did come out of the theater enjoying it a little more than I thought I would. Is it a little forgettable? Yeah, I'll likely forget about this movie soon, and will I watch it again? Some parts of it. So this MonsterVerse hasn't really been too great, but not too bad in my opinion. I think it does have its great and enjoyable moments, but a few things that do hold it back. And where would I rank this film in my MonsterVerse ranking? 5 films so far. Number 5 would be Godzilla King of the Monsters for me. Number 4, that's where I'm going to put Godzilla x Kong The New Empire. 3, Godzilla 2014. 2, bit of an unpopular opinion, but I put Kong Skull Island there. And number 1, Godzilla vs. Kong. So that right there is my MonsterVerse ranking, and I would like to hear your MonsterVerse ranking if you'd like to share. And now we made it to the end of the review. I would like to give you my thoughts, if you're interested here, on Godzilla Minus One. I saw that movie in January in theaters. After seeing it on so many best of the year lists and hearing so much hype about it, I was a little worried. I was like, is this movie really going to live up to the hype for me? After seeing it, oh my god, it did. Godzilla Minus One is freaking phenomenal in every way. And it just might be the best Godzilla movie I have ever seen. Just from the incredible, heart-pounding, and tension-filled action, the great directing, sound design, and even the visual effects are amazing for a movie that cost $15 million. And I was jumping with joy when this movie won the Oscar for visual effects. I was very happy about that. That was one of my favorite wins of the night. But most of all, it does have a lot of depth in the story, with characters to care about, their struggles, how this film talks about PTSD, past mistakes, the devastating aftermath of destruction. It's all fantastic. It absolutely gives me everything I want to see in a Godzilla movie and more. A freaking plus movie, one of the best films of 2023. If you have not seen Godzilla Minus One yet, watch it, please. It absolutely lives up to the hype and then some. And I'm just eager to buy that movie whenever it comes out on Blu-ray in the US. I can't wait to watch it again. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire? If you've seen it, do you agree? Disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you interested in seeing the film or not? Let me know down below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie and want to see more reviews like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here. And don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.